Masech Sanhedrin, Daf Gimel Amud Aleph. We're starting from the fourth line from the top, fifth line from the top. Yochi.
I can't hear.
Says the Gemara. Yesterday we learned that there's two parts. There's Chavoles and Gzeles, which go. Yesterday we say it goes under the category of Dine Memenes. So the Gemara is, why do you have to have both? So the Gemara says to exclude Haidois v'Halvois. That Haidois v'Halvois is not in the same category as Gzelis v'Chavolis. Why? Because I'm telling you the Maskana. Gzelis v'Chavolis need Dayonim Mumchin. But when it comes to Haidois v'Halvois, you could have even plain Dayonim. And the reason is because people won't lend money. Because if they'll have to collect and to bring together three mumchim, it's impossible. It's very hard. To find these mumchim is hard to find. So the dishes lakidis they also took out because if they make one mistake, they'll never get their money. So therefore, they were masakin metzad loy sinoil delas b'fnei lovin. They were masakin right at the beginning. So he explains.
A black thing. It's a gedenken.
Okay. So he says that Gzeles and Chavoles, the reason is you need Dayan Mumchim, but Haidas Vavos not because people won't want to lend money. Because if I have to be if my only way of collecting money is by putting together three Dayan Mumchim, that's hard. So in order to make it easier for the Malva to collect his money, we allow plain people. So that's why he said Dafka Dinim Amanis. What are Dinim Amanis? Only Gzeles v'Chavoles, not Havois v'Hadois. In fact, the Gemara Yahachi, why learn such a shver pshat in the Mishnah? Dinei Mamanes, and what is Dinei Mamanes? Gzeles v'Chavoles. Tartei Ktani, learn something learn two categories. The Mishnah is talking about two categories, and that will be more a pshutei shamikra. So the Gemara is asking, use a simpler pshat. That you instead of saying Mahain, what is Dinei Mamanis, and you'll say Gzelis v'Chavolis. So no, say that Dinei Mamanis. So the Gemara is saying, why do we have to say Dinei Mamanis? And we're asking on the words Dinei Mamanis of the Mishnah. You're saying, what's the pshat of Dinei Mamanis? Mahain. You're going to add words. What does Dinei Mamanis mean? Gzelis v'Chavolis. Don't learn it like that. Learn it as two categories. Tati Ktani. How? Dinei Mamanis is one category, which is Haidois v'Halvois, and that could be done even b'fnei shloisha adyotis, even in front of three plain dayanim. You don't have to have professionals for that. And Gzeles v'Chavoles b'fnei shloisha mumchim. That would have been the easier way that fits with the Mishnah, instead of saying Dinei Mamanis, and then the Mishnah saying, what does it mean, Dinei Mamanis, Gzeles v'Chavoles? Here it's much smoother. Nachakashi is Shleisha Lamali. If the Mishnah is explaining what Dinei Mamanis is, it should have said one time Shleisha. Dinei Mamanis Gzelos v'Chavoles b'Shleisha. That's not what the Mishnah says. Dinei Mamanis, it says in front of three, and then it says Gzelos v'Chavoles in front of three again. So it sounds like the Mishnah itself is saying two separate categories. Because if the Mishnah was saying one category, Dinei Mamanis, what is it? Chavoles and Gzeles, then after saying Chavoles, that's where you should write Shleisha. But instead, what did the Mishnah do? Dinei Mamanes, Shleisha. Gzeles Chavoles, Shleisha. Obviously, he's telling you two separate categories. Elamar Rabba says, Taketarte Katani. We are learning in the Mishnah two categories, according to Rabba. Dinei Mamanes is Haidas V'Halvois, and it's in front of Bishleisha Hadyotes. And Gzeles v'Chavoles means common people, not Dayanim who are learned people, not Dayanim Mumchim. And the Gzeles v'Chavoles, when it comes to damages or causing loss, Gzeles by stealing from somebody, that's in front of Dafka 3 Mumchim. This is according to Rava. Alam Rava Tatik Tani. Why is it good by Hadyotes? By Haidois V'Halvois, Mishum Rabbi Chanina, because of the reasoning that Rabbi Chanina gave yesterday, we learned Shaloi Sinel Delas B'fnei Lovin. we allowed that they should be able to pick up 3 common people to make a bezin just like that fast, because for the Malva to be able to collect his money real fast, he shouldn't have to search for only dayanim who are mumchim or learned. He shouldn't have to go searching for that. Okay. So we have right now a machlekes between Rabbi Avo and Rava. Rabbi Avo learns Dine Mamanes, you have to learn the Pshat in the Mishnah. Mohin Dine Mamanes Chavolis, Xevis Chavolis. But according to Rava says no, it's 2 separate categories. Dine Mamanes is he does Malvois, and in front of Shleisha Dietes. Xevis Chavolis is in front of the Ayonim. Okay, Ravach Breda Veikam. Ravach Breda Eike says a whole different way. He says it's mamish 2 different dinim. Midaraisa, min hatera, chad nami kosher. Even one dayan is enough to judge when it comes to dinei halvois. That yes, dinei mamanis. That's how we're learning the category, right? Halvois, and so one dayan could accept Adam saying that Reuven lent Shimon money, and to enforce that Shimon should have to pay Reuven. One dayan is enough. Where do we see that? Shenema betzedek tishboit amisecha. From this, that the pasuk writes tishboit b'lashon yachid in a singular fashion that shows us all you need to for a person to paskin is one dayan. Ella, why did they require 3? For the corner dwellers, we call it. For those people that are laymen and sit and sit in the corners, we call them batlonim. So what could happen if you have a batlin? A batlin is he's not going to know any dinim, and he's going to paskin, and he's going to be mezaka, somebody who is a chayiv. Mezaka means he'll reward the one that he really owes the money, and he's going to say he doesn't have to pay, or he's going to be bechayiv, the one does not owe the money. So that's why you require 3. What do you gain by 3? If you can't find 3 batlonim, it doesn't. What's? Yeah, you could get a dime a dozen for them. So he says, what is it? They make a difference if it's one. You might pick the wrong one that is a layman and doesn't know nothing. But if you have 3, you solve the problem. You can have 3 batlonim too. Says you want to know. When you accumulate 3 yeshikronis, it's impossible that one shouldn't be a learned, a person who's learned. In fact, only now tell if this bezdin made a mistake, like Yishalman, they shouldn't pay. If a bezdin of laymen's made a mistake, and they were mechayiv a person who wasn't chayiv, so bezdin shouldn't have to pay. Just like this bezdin, these dayanim pshutim, who are not dayanim, these 3 laymen who are sitting like a bezdin, if they make a mistake, they shouldn't pay. Just like when we say dayanim mumchim, professionals, if they make a mistake, they're not mechuyev to pay. So these laymen shouldn't have to pay either. Says you want to know. He says if then you're not going to make them responsible, then they're not going to bother to find out what the real din is, and they'll paskin wrong. So in order to make sure that the laymen are careful, and so if a layman sees he knows nothing about it, he won't even approach it, because if he approaches it and he paskins the wrong din, he's responsible. He's not indemnified. He's going to have to pay for whatever he paskins wrong. The bezdin layman dafen to its own. This bezdin itself will have to pay back its money if they made a mistake. So this is how you avoid having the wrong people sit down, and only responsible people will sit down. In fact, what is the difference between Rava? Rava says, Min HaTorah you need 3 dayanim, and Ravach B'Eida V'Eika says 1 really is enough, but you should have 3, because you don't want to have Yishrei Krones. So the Chacham Masakin, you need 3. So either way, the bottom line is you need 3 dayanim. Says the difference is Shmuel Shnaim Shadanu Dineim Din El Sheniku Din Chotzuv. Shmuel had said 2 people who paskin a din. Their din is a din, even though you need a bezdin of 3. it's going to be the psak din is a psak din. Just it's called a brazen bezdin. Brazen means I'm a chutzav dike bezdin. A chutzav. It should, because 2 is not enough. You should really have 3. But according to Shmuel, 2 will be good enough. So he says like this: Lirava chutz, because they were supposed to have 3. That's the takana, and they only had 2. Lirava, who says you need minater 3 dayonim. Lastly, the Shmuel, he doesn't hold that a bezdin of 2, the psak that comes out of it is a good psak. No, even though it's called, he doesn't call it, even though it's not a bezdin. He doesn't even, he says, "Menateri, you need 3 dayanim. There's no way out." No, there's edis that come in front of the dayanim. We're talking about the dayanim to pass him, the dayanim itself. So you need 3 according to Rava. Menateri, you need 3. There's no way out. But Ravach, who says for bezdin you only need 1. For bezdin 1 is enough. Islay the Shmuel. He holds of Shmuel that what? That if there was 2, it's only a takana that you should have 3. The Chacham says you should have 3 because between 3 you'll have one that knows the halacha. But he will hold that if there was 2 and a psak din came out of 2, it's also good because menateri you only need 1. Okay. In the Mishnah we learn nezek v'chatzi nezek. If somebody does damages, and he comes with a claim for damages, or for the full damage, or for payment of a half a damage, that is done. These claims are done b'shleish in front of 3 dayanim, because there are different categories of things that you could approach a bezdin, and sometimes it requires more people in the bezdin. But we're saying when it comes to hazekis, 3 is enough. When it comes to damages, to collect damages, 3 dayanim is enough. In fact, you want to nezek, hainu chavalis. Why do you have to say nezek? Nezek is included in chavalis. What does chavalis mean? That an ox came and gored the person, and you would have to evaluate the person like he was an eved, a slave in the market. So a slave who wasn't banged up and he's healthy, he's worth, let's say, $1,000. But if there's a show, you gave him a good bang. And he was the value. He didn't kill him, but he became the value. Now he walks on 1 foot, he hops, or he's not with his full capacity. No, now you can't. So yeah, he was devaluated. So that's part of nezek. So why is it? Why do we say nezek and chavalis has to be done in front of 3 of a bezdin? That's included in chavalis.
The same thing.
Yeah, because he wanted to tell us about the chatzi nezek, that there's a time, a shur, that gores a person. The first 3 times that it gores, he only has to pay half the damages. Chatzi nezek, and only after the 3rd, the 4th time, then he pays nezek shalom. So he wanted to tell you this category of chatzi nezek is also done in front of 3 dayanim, and once he already mentioned chatzi nezek, he said nezek shalom, because chatzi nezek, half of paying half the damage comes together usually with the paying the full damages. So he mentioned chatzi nezek and nezek shalom, but the chiddush is about chatzi nezek. In fact, you mother chatzi nezek nami hainu chavolis, even paying half the damages. That's under the title of chavolis. Chavolis means that a shoya ox, let's say, damaged the person in the first 3 times, he pays chatzi nezek. So that's part of chavolis. Says the Gemara, Tana Memena Ukatani Knasa. We're learning different categories. We're learning the category of mamay. What does it mean, the category of mamay? So we say that there's nezek shalom is mamay. Knas or chavalis, we're talking about he pays the full damages. Chatzi nezek is a knas because the owner of the ox normally doesn't have to watch the ox. The ox is usually tame. The ox went crazy, so the Torah says, look, we can't fault him, but he should always be vigilant. So in order to tell him to always be vigilant, you're going to pay a knas of chatzi nezek, even though you're not supposed to minater, you don't know anything. Well, we'll require you to pay chatzi nezek, so you should watch the ox even when it's tame. Like a knas, yeah. In fact, this only makes sense according to the one that says that the reason why after the first 3 times only pays half the nezek is a knas. But according to the man the that says no, Chatzi Nezik is not a knas, it's mamain. Meaning that an ox is not a tamed animal. You always got to watch it. And really, he should have paid Nezik Shalom. The only reason why he's paying Chatzi Nezik because the Chachamim had Achmanas on him. Because he was used to the animal being tamed, and boom, and became wild. But under normal circumstances, he's responsible all the time. Right. He should have paid Nezik Shalom. Here's Nishkenada, but here they show you. He learns. He says, Stam Shvadim. So he learns that Stam Shvadim is fakert. Einam becheskes shimur. It's not becheskes that they're tamed. You have to always watch them. You have to always be concerned. Shema Yaziku. No. And Be'emes, the Baal Hashem should have paid. There's a mandam that says really he should have paid the whole thing. So, but we say only to Teirat Achmanes because the Shari wasn't a mu'it and he didn't have this tendency of always going. So according to this man, the Amar, Palgan Nezek, this that he's paying in half the Nezik, is not because it's a knas, because it's a Rachmanis, really, you were supposed to pay the whole thing. But you're paying half, but it's not as a punishment. It's really, you owe the money, you owe even more. So it's really under the category of mamain, and that's the same thing as chavoles. And the only I did the kabayla misna tashlumi kevo tashlumi dalad only because we spoke about the payments there of somebody who stole, somebody was holding a pikadon. He was holding a collateral, and he used it for himself. He stole it. If he sold it or he slaughtered it, then he'll have to pay 4 times, 5 times as much. So since we're talking about 4 and 5 times as much, so which is not talking about paying the principal, these are cases of a person paying but not paying the principal. He's paying much more than the principal. So therefore he learned the case of Chatzi Nezik. He's also not paying principal. He's paying less than the principal. The it's money that he's not paying as a principal. He's paying less. Breish means the principal. But I did the Kabbalah Mishnah Chatzi Nezik, since he wanted to learn all those cases that he's not paying principal, like Tashlumi Keifel is above the principal. So he wanted to learn Chatzi Nezik, which is below the principal. He's not paying principal. That's why he learned Chatzi Nezik. Tananami Nezik. So therefore he also learned Nezik Shalom. But he had to learn Chatzi Nezik as part of the category of not paying principal. In fact, from what do we know? From the Torah that a person has to be of 3. The Torah Rabbanon learned. It says that the person who lost the pikadon was stolen from him, and he says it was the one that's holding the collateral says it was stolen from him. He has to come to Bezdin. El Halakim means he comes to the dayan. Arekan echot. So you have one Halakim, which means one dayan. In the same pasuk it says Ad Halakim Yavid Vashneim. To the judge, both the one that gave the collateral and the one that is holding on to the collateral has to come to the dayan. You have 2 dayanim. Then it says in the pasuk Asher Yashin Alakim, the one that the dayan will paskin, he's guilty, he has to pay. So that's a 3rd dayan. So you see from this pasuk it says Alakim 3 times, corresponding how many dayanim you need? 3. Divi Rabbi Yeshua. That's the Pirish of Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Yeshua the first one you need it for to tell us that you need a professional dayan to paskin. So you can't count the first Elikim as if it's an extra word to tell us how many dayanim you're coming to Nuah Dasha. Elikim you need for the story itself to tell you need a dayan mumcha. Ella says you're right. Ad Elikim Yavid Vashneim, that's one Elikim. You have 1. Asher Yashin Alikim Areikan Shnai. And it says Asher Yashin Alikim, that's 2 dayanim. The Ein Bezdin Shakel, and a Bezdin cannot be even. It has to be, in order that there should be a majority, you have to have an odd number. So, because the Torah says, it's then you follow that. It says Achrei Rabim Lahatis. We have to lean according to the majority. So if you only have 2, there won't be a majority. So therefore, we have to add a 3rd one to have 3 odd number in order that there should be a union of majority. In fact, you might name So we have a machlekes between Rabbi Yosha and Rabbi Yonasan. If we learn out from the 3 elikims, you need 3 dayanim, or no, we only learn out from 2 elikims, 2 dayanim. But because we have to lean to a majority, we add a third one. In fact, you want to name the Medayishim, let us say whether the first elikim it could be also used as a dasha, and say how would you use it as a dasha? You'll say since the second 2 elikims was used as a dasha, so we can learn out from the other 2 that the first one could also be used as a dasha. Umar Saba ain't dash in Tchilas, and then the other Tana says, no, we're not going to dash in Tchilas, we're not going to dash in the first one. We need it for the Gufa Inyan to tell us that you need a Dayim Mumcha. So maybe that's what they're arguing, if whether the first one could be used as a dasha or not. So as you want to like the Kuli Alma and dash in Tchilas. Everybody's in agreement that the first Elikim cannot be used as a drasha, as to tell us that it's telling us you need another Dayan. So what is Rabbi Yosha going to say? Even though B'derech Klal, so how does he know you need 3 dayanim? So he says in Cain, because instead of the pasuk saying "V'nika balabais el Elokim," name a krav "V'nika balabais el Shefet." You should have used the word Shefet, which is the same thing, which is the frequent lashon, the normal lashon to use. And instead, what did he use? My el Elokim. Why did he use an unusual lashon? The unusual lashon teaches us that another dayan. Rabbi Yonasan, what does Rabbi Yonasan says? Elikim teaches us. Why does it say Elikim and not Shefet? What drasha do you learn out from that? He says, listen to the Almanakad. The Torah used the lashon that people speak. The Ami Inshi, like people speak. Man Isleidina, one who has a claim on his friend. Likarev legabe dayona. He should go to the dayan. When we say dayan, a dayan mumcha, and Elikim is the one that emphasizes a dayan mumcha. Rabbi Yosha, Leslie Bezdin Noita, doesn't he hold that why does he need the extra Elikim to tell us a third dayan? Let him learn, like Rabbi Yonasan, that you have 2 from the 2 Elikims. And you have to have a third one because Acharei Rab Lahatis. Why does he need a third Elikim? So, Vatani, we learned in the Braisa. So, what is the pasuk telling you twice? It says Lintais, and then it says Acharei Rab Lahatis. Why does it say twice? You should lean according to the majority. You should make a based in that there should be a rave, a majority, that there should be an odd number that you should be able to be nated to the rabbin. Yeah. So like Rabbi Yehuda. And the Gemara, so what is he going to answer about that? Why couldn't he answer that's why you need 3? Says the Gemara, something like Rabbi Yehuda. He holds like Rabbi Yehuda, you don't need an odd number. The Ummah that Rabbi Yehuda said, Shivim, when it comes to the big Sanhedrin, all you need is 70, not 71. The Tanan that we learned in our Mishnah, Sanhedrin Gedolah Ha'isa Shalshim V'Achot Dayanim. The Tanakama said that the big Sanhedrin, big court, consisted of 71 Dayanim. And Rabbi Yehuda said no, 70, even an even number. So that's what we could say. Rabbi Yosha holds that it doesn't have to be an odd number; it could be an even number.
It could be 3. It doesn't have to be 3.
It could be 4 even. He doesn't care, Rabbi Yosha. In fact, you want to even Shamat Lei Rabbi Yehuda b'Sanhedrin Gedolah. The Ksibi Krai. Say our Mishnah where he's talking about the big Sanhedrin. You have to have. You only need 70. You could have an even number, even though it'll end up 35 against 35. It doesn't matter because the Torah says a pasuk, Osfali Shivim Ish. So there the pasuk says explicitly, gather to me 70. It doesn't say 71. But Bishar Beidina, but any other Bezdin where you don't have a pasuk telling you how much, do you say you don't need an odd number? You need an odd number in order to lean according to the majority. And if you want to say Rabbi Yosha does not differentiate, Rabbi Yehuda does not differentiate between the Sanhedrin Gedolah and any other Bezdin. Says, what are you talking about? But now we learned in our Mishnah, Smichas Kenim. The Smichas Kenim, you remember, the Kenim, the Sanhedrin paskin wrong told the tzibur they could do a certain thing, which the Mezid Yechayev Kares. So they have to bring a carbon, and each one has to. All these dayanim have to put their hands on the animal because they made a mistake. Arifas egla. Arifas egla means the cutting of the calf, that the head. What happened? They found a dead person between two cities. They measured to where the dead person is closest to, and then they would take a calf and knock off the head of the calf.
What happened?
That would be a kapara for that whole city. Yeah. The Amrilan, and we said my time of Rabbi Yehuda. What's talking the reason of Rabbi Yehuda? So that you need a bezdin of 3, because it says, that you need a bezdin of 5. So he says, because it says v'samchu, they should lean, they is 2. Miyut Rabin is 2, samchu is 9. It says ziknei is also lashon Rabin, shnaim is 4.
What do you say, 5?
Vein bezdin shakel. And Rabbi Yehuda here said, you cannot have an even bezdin. It has to be an odd number in order that there should be achrei Rabin lahatis. My sifna lein oit echad. We add one more in order that there should be an odd number that should be a rave, a majority. So you see, Rabbi Yehuda, by other cases other than the big Sanhedrin, you need an odd number. The only place where he made the exception was by the big Bezdin. He said 70 because the Torah says so. Us at least Shivim state. But a regular Bezdin, you need an odd number is good enough. I mean, you need an odd number. Rabbi Yosha says, Lav Dafka, Rabbi Yosha has to hold like Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yosha, different from Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yosha could be holding even stronger than Rabbi Yehuda. The Rabbi Yehuda, for Rabbi Yehuda, the Sanhedrin Yedela Huda Leslay. He says, Rabbi Yehuda says, only by the big Sanhedrin you don't need an odd number. Even number is good. But any other bezdin, Islay, you need an odd number. Rabbi Yosha, Bishar, Beidina, Leslay. Rabbi Yosha says, even by a regular bezdin, you don't need an even number. In fact, the Gemara, according to Rabbi Yosha, it says "Hi lintois." In the pasuk, it says "lintois." What does he do with that extra word "lintois"? You have to lean according to the majority. He says "Mukin labidin in fashes." He says that's only going to apply by din in the fashes by cases of chas v'shalom of killing somebody. Then you need an odd number. When it comes to laws of money, you don't need it. In fact, it's not only this that we learned in the Mishnah by dinim mamanis. You have oimim zakai. I'm sorry, shnaim oimim zakai. V'echadayim chayiv. 2 out of the 3 say he doesn't owe any money. 1 out of the 3 says he owes the money. Says Imara zakai. The Mishnah says we go according to the majority that said he doesn't owe the money. Or shnaim oimim chayiv v'echadayim zakai. 2 of them say that he owes the money, and 1 says that he doesn't. So then we say we go according to the majority that chayiv is chayiv. So name of the loik Rabbi Yosha say it's not like Rabbi Yosha, because Rabbi Yosha says we don't go according to the majority. He says when it's a bezdin by din and mamanis, you need the whole bezdin to say the same thing, all 3. And if they're not saying the same thing, then we shouldn't be able to pass him according to the majority. So if you want to know, I feel it Rabbi Yosha. You can even say according to Rabbi Yosha. Ma'isi lo b'kavachem v'din in the fashes. He learns out with a kavachem from din in the fashes. Ma din in the fashes the chamire, ma din in the fashes, which is much more. You're dealing with something much more severe, and you're going to allow a majority to paskin that he's chayiv misa if there's a majority. The Torah says you go after the majority. Din in mamanis, which is a much lighter sentence. Like kol shekain, when you're dealing with money issues, monetary issues, that's much lighter for sure. The halacha should be that the majority should win. It's just you don't need an odd number, but we can learn out that we go according to the majority of even by even numbers. He says you don't need an odd number. The only place you need an odd number is by din in the fashes. By din in mamanis, you don't need an odd number, but you'll go after the majority. Din and Mamanis is in front of 3 Aiden. Rabbi Yomer b'chamisha. Rabbi says 5. Kidei sheigam adin b'shleisha. In order that you should have a minimum of 3 paskening, so there should be at least a minimum of 3. That's why he requires 5, because there should be 3. The majority should be minimum 3. You can't have a majority 2 and 1. You need a majority 3.
What if you have 4? You have 3
So it's more than that.
3 and 1. It's 2 and 2. What happens then?
3 and 1.
But you could have 2 and 2. So you have to, the majority, you need 5. And you, why 5? Because you need the majority of 3 against 2. Said to your mother, where are we up? By 3, you can't have a majority. You have 2 against 3. And the 3 overcome the. I'm sorry, you have 2 against 1. 2 against 1. And the Gemara Hachi come out. That's what he wanted to emphasize. A Gemar Din could only be if you have 3 Dayanim as a majority. So we see that he holds when it comes to a majority to Paskin Adin, it can only be a majority with 3. Rabbi Avo cursed, and he said, Elamiyata, only now. We should say when it comes to the Sanhedrin Gedolah, the Torah says you need 71, right? 71. We're talking about the one sheet is 71. So when the Torah says 71, that means the 71. But when it comes to the psak, we can only rely if it is 71. So in order to be a majority, so you have to have 141. So there will be 71, a minimum of 71, passing on one side. That's because otherwise, if there's no 71, we can't pass it. And the same thing with 23. By 23, you should have 45, because you'll say 23. You need a majority of 23 to affect the psak. Because if you're saying that the reason why you need 5, because 3 is for the Gemar Din. So every time the Torah says a number, it's for the Gemar Din. So when the Torah says 71, you need for the Gemar Din 71. When it says 23, I'll say for the Gemar Din, you need 23. So it says, Ella, no, it's wrong. Rather, it's not referring to the psak din, not to initiate the psak. All you need is 70 or 71. 70. Also, by the 23, you only need it for the inception, not for the Gemar Din. And in the 23, you can have a majority. In the 70, you can have a majority. It means from the inception.
What's the inception mean?
From the starting of the din. When to start a din Torah, you have to have 71.
So you have to have 140.
No, you don't. Now he's answering. No, we thought it's referring to the end. When it comes to psak, you have to have a minimum of 71.
No,
He says no. It means to start the din Torah, you need the 71. That's it. And in the 71, you can have a roiv. And the same thing is with the 23. And the same thing is with the 3.
So why you have to start with 71?
Huh?
Why you have to start if the row would be in the middle anyways? Why have to be 71?
Oh, 71. So the one is 36 and one is 34.
But the only
35. I'm sorry. One is 36 and
You have
35.
to have an addition of 2.